Another X Factor podcast this time with Howie, and Howie's amazing at growth. I want to have Howie introduce some of the amazing cool stuff that he has done. Actually, I have heard of Howie before before this podcast. He might not know. That's why when I first met him, I was like, wait a minute, I've seen you before. And heard of some of the amazing things that he has done before. I actually knew Howie in the area of, yes, growth hacking and some of the things he had done in growth, and also about email marketing, a whole bunch of things he has done there. But I know that his knowledge is pretty extensive across the whole different areas. And I love to have that conversation. I know it benefit a lot of people here who are looking to scale, and especially across the different parts of their business or so. So that's what today's conversation is about. So Howie, why don't you do a little quick intro on some of the things that you have done before? What are some of the ideas that you have had in terms of results you're generating in terms of growth, and also how you came up with realizing all of these things? I think it's been fascinating first question.
Yeah, for sure, man. I guess first of all, hi everyone. I'm Howie Tan. So my history was that I actually helped a company to grow 20 times, right, from $100,000 a month to $2 million a month, and that was where it all started out. Right, I started just purely as an apprentice in one of the companies that I was working in, and that was actually a health supplement type of company, right, and then after leaving that, I started my own e-commerce company, scaled it up to 6 figures in 3 months, and then decided that I want to go into consulting, right? But in between, I also worked as a growth director and served in different capacities with different companies as well. So some of the areas that I focus on are partnership marketing, email marketing, Facebook. Facebook is something that I used very extensively for e-commerce and also for coaches who are some of them are actually my clients, so I help them with Facebook marketing as well, copywriting, and yeah, I would say that just about anything that will help a company to magnify their profits and also to help them to automate the process so that the founders can remove themselves from the operations.
Removing themselves, that one is a very, very attractive thing that a lot of people want. So let's talk first and foremost, when you start working with people, what are some of the symptoms that they have when they first come to Howie, right? They want to, what state do you find them in? Are they in like disarray? Is their marketing out of whack? Is copywriting not right? What kind of state are they in when they first engage you?
The funny thing is, I at first thought that people will come to me straight for marketing. And that was the initial conversations I had with people. But as the conversation develops with each of them, I realized that a lot of them just are at this stage where they can't decide what to do next. They are either at this point where they have so much opportunities, they don't know which area to pursue because they want to make sure that they have the most efficient use of their time, or they are at this stage where they feel like they are stagnant with their growth and they don't know how to get over to the next stage. So most of them will probably be at the 6-7 figure stage, and they're coming to me looking to grow to 20 million or 30 million. And typically at this kind of stage, I like to say, if you want to get from 0 to 6 figures, you can just brute force it, right? Find something with a product market fit, try, and then you can get it. But getting to 7 figure is continuous execution, but getting from 7 to 8 figures is where you need all the systems in place, where you get the definition on where people actually what people actually handle in your organization. If you have a team, if you're a solopreneur and want to stay that way, then how do you actually systemize the kind of processes that you have, be it marketing, be it your operations, right? In operations, you can have all other aspects as including design, and also management of different partners with the company. Like for example, if you say need someone to generate leads, then how do you actually structure a deal with somebody like this? Or how do you turn the marketing around in such a way that you actually attract people to come to your business, right? So yeah, so I would say that by and large, they are at either stagnant stage or they just have too much opportunities. They don't know which one to focus on.
So let's say they hire Howie the fixer. Please come in, clean up all of these things. Things are either not moving, or they're working too much, they can't extract themselves from the business, or just like things are in disarray. So how does Howie the doctor, Howie the fixer begin? Like what goes through your mind when you go in there and it's like, all right, cool, it's time to clean shop and fix things?
You know, that's a very interesting thing that I was actually called this a couple of times, you know, with the people that I work with. So I think the
Doctor or
first guy who
fixer?
actually, yeah, the
Doctor.
first guy who actually called me the fixer was
Uh,
Alvin Hong.
oh,
So this guy is one of the guys one of my early day mentors, right? And I worked in his company for about 3.5 years. So yeah, he actually called me that. So I didn't really realize this until I started, you know, doing a lot of reflections. Then I realized that, hey, I can actually help people with this. So typically when I work with somebody, I actually ask a lot of questions. You know, a lot of times people think that, oh, you know, if you're a consultant, you come here, you actually provide me with the answers.
yeah.
Actually, the thing is, it might sound very unsexy for me to say this, but the answer needs to come from the person instead of me, because then we will know exactly where the problem lies, because each business has their own DNA, right? So let's say, for example, I'm working with a company that is 1 million in terms of yearly sales right now, and they want to scale up to 10 million, right? The first thing I'll do is go in and ask them, okay, where's your annual data? Okay, what can you break down your company's roles and departments to me, right? If you're a solopreneur, break down all the functions that you have. Even though you're a solopreneur, right, you'll be surprised that you're actually covering a lot of roles. It does not mean that if you don't have employees working for you, that you don't have all these roles. You actually do, but you're just multitasking, right? So let's say, for example, you imagine an organization chart. You have the CEO, then you break down into CMO, COO, and whatsoever, and then at the bottom of those roles, you have all your designer, your marketer, and then through your marketing, you have paid media whatsoever, right? So if you're a solopreneur, you actually handle all these things, right? And if you actually have freelancers, they are filling up some of these gaps for you. But when you actually map it out, you'll be then able to diagnose, like, okay, great, you know, am I spending too much time in this area, or am I spending too much time in this area? So there are some clients who come to me, and they, after mapping this entire thing out, right, they came to me and tell me, hey, you know how I am spending so much time in my daily operations. Like I'm just spending that time trying to get trying to fix the IT issues within my company, for example.
Wow. Wow.
Right? And they're like, oh, you know, shit, I'm fixing, like, maybe like 60% of the time I'm fixing all this kind of like back end issues. Then what should I do? Right, I'm trying to drive up the revenue here, but here I am, sometimes I'm just trapped in this area. So my next question will then be, okay, great, you know, if that is the problem, then are you able to delegate it? Are you able to change that function, or replace it with something else that will help you to solve this problem before we actually go into the marketing side of things? Because right, a lot of these people, when they come to me, they don't know their processes, because companies can, like, I'm sure you also experience this, Melvin. Companies can just go from 0 to 6-figure or 7-figure, right? Just like that, because in the world of digital marketing, the if something has product marketing, it catches fire very fast. So it's just by catching fire, it means that it goes viral very fast, and then people really just come and want to take out your offer. So the thing is, a lot of these people, they are at this stage where suddenly their business blew up, and a lot of they have a lot of people coming in, whether they are doing a group coaching, for example, right? And then they are feeling overwhelmed because they just have too many people to coach. They had to switch their brains all the time, and they don't have time to try to fix some of the other issues that they experience. But these are so-called mundane issues, but if they don't solve them, they're gonna end up having to solve the issue, having to like spend, you know, hours every time trying to be trapped in this area, right? Trying to solve this area. So I get them to solve, you know, find firstly to identify what are the blocks in the business. Then we will move on to having the data in their business, right? Having the data in place where and you know, having served as a growth director, right? To be honest with you, one of the first thing that you'll be surprised we actually do is to gather the data from the company. And a lot of these companies that we have, right, they don't really have their own data. Like, I've spoken to so many 6-figure business owners, and they don't even know what Google Analytics is, right? It's quite surprising. For some of us who are more familiar, it can be quite surprising. But for I guess it's because you and I have been in this area for so long. It's second nature to us. So when I start to ask them to implement all these analytics, right? I also explain to them that, hey, look, when whatever gets measured gets done, and whatever gets measured gets improved. So when we get the measurements in place, then I can start to ask the better questions. Okay, great. What has worked for you in the past? What has not worked for you in the past? You probably don't have these data in the past as well, right? So if that's the case, then we'll start working right now, put in some actions for say 2 weeks to 1 month, and then revisit it again the next month and say, hey, okay, what has worked, what hasn't worked, and then we'll double down on those things that worked, and then try to find out what are some of the obstacles that you actually encounter over the time, right? And we can also then decide whether those kind of obstacles can be removed or not. That's why I actually had this customer or client who came to me at first asking for influencer marketing help, right? I went in, look at their data, and they realized that, okay, number one, I don't have my data in place. Okay, so I helped them with that data. They had everything fixed, and then I helped them with their teams, right? And the next thing they realized that, hey, after looking at this data, I realized that maybe
influencer marketing.
We shouldn't be going to influencer marketing. We should be going to email marketing instead. So I was like, yeah, it's true, because you can then see very, very clearly that email marketing is adding on to your coffer so well. And there's also a lot of room to improve. All right, for perspective, their open rates were like at 17%. And I told them, look, a lot of people that I serve, their open rates can go up to 30 or 35%. There's a lot of room for improvement here, right? So open rates means that the number of people that actually receive and actually open your message, because only when they open it, then can they actually see the content and then get interested in your products to actually go and find it. So that's an example of how I start working with a client with supposedly in one aspect, and it evolved to another aspect just because we started from the ground up, right? That's why I don't like to go in and say, hey, we'll just throw this and then see if it sticks on the wall, because that's just like putting a plaster over your your gash. If you have a deep wound, right, you need to get to the root of the problem. You don't want to paste your plaster and try to fix it on the surface, right? Yeah, so that's how I see things, right? I go really, really deep, which is why the clients who like it, they really, really appreciate it. Then those people who don't understand it, then it takes time for them to really understand why I'm asking this question.
I think I want to interject something here as I listen to you.
Sure.
It's really interesting, your entire methodology, because here's what I think a lot of people thought when let's say they first listened to this podcast, this interview. Howie's going to teach me a bunch of cool shit that I'm going to apply, and that, I'm going to plug it in, and then immediately I'm going to get like fast, instant results. Because Howie's going to teach me how to do influencer email, he's going to teach me how to run ads, blah, 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 right? And they want new stuff. But what you are actually doing is you're not giving them the new stuff first. You're actually starting by saying, okay, cool. So let's map out our use of time. Let's map out, what exactly is the plan that we have. Let's map out our analytics. Let's map out what exactly is working. Let's take a look at, how we can remove obstacles, zero in on the things before we do, and then we do all these fancy, cool stuff. And then we also need to then see that, do we even need to do all these fancy, cool stuff? So it does seem that growth is a byproduct, not of addition, but actually of clarity, and sometimes even subtraction of obstacles, focus, clarity seems to be where you start out. Am I correct?
Yeah, 100%. And I like the way that you put it, is because a lot of people like to say, okay, I want to add an additional sales channel. And when you think about it, to add an additional sales channel, you need to add manpower. You need to add your own time, your attention. And then you also have to dedicate somebody to train the person, right? It may be you, it may not be you, it may be like somebody like me, like a consultant that comes in and then help you to train the person. But if the person is not up to speed, right, it's gonna take a long time before you actually see results. But if you're not clear of what your goals are in the first place, let's say, for example, if you think that you have a 7-figure business, and you probably do have, but you are not sure where where exactly you are, right? You may think that, okay, you know, I'm at 1.5 million or something. And it's very common for me to ask this, okay, how much exactly are you making on a month-to-month basis, right? And the answer comes to me like, oh, you know, we don't really track this, right? So they only base it on gut feel, because what they look at is maybe they will look at their Stripe dashboard or their PayPal dashboard, and they see, okay, I have this amount of money, right? But there's no accounting of the manpower that they use or whatsoever. I mean, if it's high margin, great. But if they are not really measuring their whatever revenue is coming in, then how are you going to know that this effort is going to add 30% to your revenue within the next 2 months, right? I just had this client who we added 68% of their revenue. Actually, it just went all the way down to the profits because it's email revenue, right? So we basically added 68% within 2 months. And it was very, very clear because this client was ready. This client had their data ready, and when I asked for it, they immediately gave it to me. So there are clients who are ready to take it. So once you have all these things in place and you ask for so when you ask for an additional sales channel, yes, we can do that with you. But if you don't even have that, then there's no way that you can say, okay, you know, this person has earned X amount for me, or there is progress, because let's say, for example, you're trying to start a new sales channel, like for example, you want to start YouTube, or you want to start advertising on say Meta, right? Right. So if you want to start advertising on these kind of channels, the results may come in a matter of quarters, like 2 quarters or something like this. It may come in a matter of months. But how do you know that this person is actually contributing to your company in the meantime? It all comes back to data. It all comes back to what are the metrics that you measure, right? When you don't see sales, what do you look at? You know, what do you look at? What is it just pure clicks? Is it how do you know that these are also quality people that are actually coming onto your page or into your business, so to speak, right? So yes, there are people who are ready for it. There are a lot of people who may think that they're ready for it, but we just need to be very clear. Okay, how do we actually measure it, and whether this is the correct step for you or not?
It does seem that data and really observing where the results come from is a critical part of growth, right? I keep cycling back to the idea that growth is not a byproduct of, like, here's what a lot of people think, right? Pump in more money, do more things, you know, run more ads, you know, hire more people. That we are growing, but think, right, or we are scaling. Look at us, man. You know, we got office, you know, we pump in more money and etc. But sometimes that might not be the definition of growth, and that might actually lead to an early downfall, especially when you're opening up new channels while there are existing problems that exist. And then afterwards, you know, these new channels don't add revenue, but it costs money. Then there are already problems, and all of a sudden, like, everything starts to tank. Have you witnessed those kind of things before, where their idea of what growth is to open new office, hire more people, more things, but then it like spend money, but no money come in? Have you witnessed that before?
Man, a number of times, I would say. So a very, very classic example is, I want to scale on Meta. I want to scale Facebook ads. And then you realize that, oh, you know, the profits is maybe just a matter of 5% or even negative, and they have not accounted for the extra revenue they need to spend, right? Whether it's for the operations, or it's to actually have another back end product to improve the margin, right, for whatever you want to sell. So I have experienced at least 2 or 3 companies that are like this, right? They scale so fast, and it's very ego satisfying to tell people, you know, I have a 7-figure business, I have an 8-figure business, wow, and I have 100 employees. You know, it's very satisfying for you to say that. But again, you know, whether this actually adds to your bottom line or not is my question, right? Because the bigger your company gets, the more things you will need to settle. For example, when you come to a certain size like 10 million, there might be certain legality issues that you may have to start settling, right? There may be certain nuances that didn't matter to you in the past that you have to start paying attention to, because simply because I'm not saying that you're breaking a law or doing anything illegal, but I'm saying that as you scale, certain concerns will come into place, right? Let's give a very generic example, right? Let's look at Facebook as a big company as a whole. As they scale up, they start to have all the privacy issues and stuff like this. When they are smaller, nobody cares. Nobody cared about this kind of things. It's the same thing for smaller companies, for SMEs who want to scale up to 7 to 8 figures. The kind of issues that they can come into contact with, for example, like the spam laws, customer service. People just kind of not vibing with certain statements that they are making. Maybe it has done well for them in the past, but because it had reached a certain level, people started making noise and about it. It doesn't have to be like a big group of people. It just takes 1 or 2 bad actors that will put your company in a bad light, right? So these are some of the things that you may have to consider, that you may have to handle as you scale your company. You have to refine your messaging, right? You have to take care of employees. You have to make sure that your processes are tight. Another classic example is when the revenues scale up, you have a lot of customers, you don't have enough CS staff, customer support staff to service your clients. When there's problems, right, you start having chargeback issues, right? Then your merchant gets closed down out of no fault of your own, just because you don't have time to serve, to answer the questions, and people think you're a fraud just because they didn't hear your answer within 24 hours, right? Or you didn't set the right expectations, right? These kind of teething issues, growing pains, as I like to call it, right, shows up a lot in 7-figure businesses. And a lot of times I have seen companies, scale up to 10 million and then come crashing down back into 5 million, 3 million, simply because they don't handle their processes well. They may overhire as well. They may have overspent in the ad side of things and not monitor their data well enough, and thinking they've been in profit for many months, and then finally when the accountant does their stuff, and yes, some of these companies may not do their accounting as often as they should, so they don't have visibility of their cash flow, right? They start realizing that they are in the red by the time they actually scale up to 10 million. 10 million in profits, 10 million in sales, but you might be making losses, right? Or maybe like 1 million in losses, so to speak. So a lot of these kind of things tend to happen if you don't monitor them. That's why, especially when a company comes to me at the $1 million, $2 million mark, data is so important for me, that I like them to see, what is your actual profit number. Profit, there's a book called Profit First, and it emphasizes about making sure that everything that flows up from the top line, goes down to the bottom line. Right, whatever you have in the middle, you're able to control it as much as you can. Right. I met some owners who like to splurge a lot on certain things. It's not their fault. It's just that because they have this habit of throwing money at problems, throwing money to solve problems. So when you have this habit of throwing money to solve problems, naturally, as your business grows, your habit magnifies as well, right? So if you start throwing money at problems, in the early parts of a business, and when the problems magnify, you start throwing more money into it, the result is again, going to show up in your bottom line. So if you don't have that kind of clear visibility, then you're gonna have a lot of stress. Every single day, you'll be thinking like, oh no, is my business is my business doing well or not, right? So I've experienced at least two owners who tell me like, hey, I'm not sure if we are in profit for the last 3 months, right? It's a very common problem. And I just tell them like, if you're at this stage, please stop trying to grow, right? Get your data in place, get your team focused in what you need to see, right? Get all of these things settled in place. And once they have cleared the dust, the owner came back to me and said, hey, I'm feeling so much better now, right? It seems like we are not in the red, we are in profits. And the next thing is when I ask the employees, the question of what should you do next? They can actually provide me the answer because they can see it very clearly in front of them that, hey, for example, this new marketing channel should be the way to go. It becomes very apparent for them. Yeah. It sounds like, maybe it sounds like they have perhaps seen their own problem, but if they didn't go through this process from the ground up, right? To look at the parts as a whole, and then drill into, like, it's like having a huge ship. Instead of fixing whatever is in the surface, right? You go into the engines, you go straight into the hull and try to see like, okay, what are some of the issues that's happening within the ship, right? And once you have fixed all these, right, everything becomes very, very apparent for you. And very, very glad to say that one of these companies, they actually managed to turn around in this aspect.
Visibility, clarity, focus, removing obstacles. Not what people thought this growth about, right? I mean, because people thought, okay, new cool shit, influencer, send more emails, weird hacks. That's what everyone think growth is. But I mean, the more you share, right? I think it really comes down to data and visibility, right? So in what areas, clarity, what are we actually doing? Obstacle removal, stop the bleeding, focus on things that work. And then that sets a very nice baseline for growth to happen. Sometimes growth can happen if you like stop doing stupid shit, and then like direct all your attention to the parts that work. Let's talk about things that once people settle this, I call it like clean shop, and everything is a lot neater, a lot tidier. Like there's what else do you do to really amplify it after they are clear and visible, they are focused, they stop doing silly stuff? What else do you come in there to help them get to the next level?
Right. It will start from the funnel aspect. So taking a look at the product that they're offering, right? Whether their angle is tight, whether they have a proper ascension model for the customer, right? Because let's say, for example, you might be a coach who is trying to sell a group coaching or a seminar. And nowadays, I think the cost per lead for meta ads is a lot, right? It's a lot, right? And it's quite unbelievable because I started back then. I think the first time I ran Facebook ads was maybe in 2015 or 2013, right? Those days, you can get leads very, very cheap. But nowadays, if you don't have a sufficient ascension model in place, then your profits are going to go down the drain very, very fast, right? You don't have something to break even, right? And just making sure that whatever you are offering has synergy with your front end. So some people think that, okay, I can just upsell them any kind of thing, right? But if you don't have something that is synergistic with the front end, then it's going to sabotage you because the person is going to feel like, hey, are you giving me something that is not enough? Are you giving me something that is like, are you employing the old trick of what in the martial arts world is like 教我十招 but 漏一招, that kind of things, right? So teach me like out of the 10 steps, you keep one step just so that one day if I betray you, you defeat me. That kind of things, right? Is you don't want to set that kind of impression. You want to set up your upsell in such a way that it synergizes and say, okay, great. Is this product going to help your customers to accelerate their learning? Is it something that helps them to solve further problems that they might encounter in their journey after they have solved the first problem, right? So that will be the funnel side of things. And then if they as they go on, and if this areas is fixed, we'll go on to, okay, what sort of traffic channels are you suitable for, right? Have you first and foremost fully utilized your internal email list or your WhatsApp list, right? So because my belief is this, if you already have the contact of the customer, right, why not utilize it to the fullest? I know some people will have this concern, right? Number one, the biggest objection I always hear is, oh my god, email is dead. Then second one is, oh, what about the spam laws, right? What about people complaining, and I don't like to number three is, I don't like to open this kind of messages or emails, right? But if you think at the grand scale of things, right, in say a group of say 1,000 people, how many of these people do you think needs to take up one of your product in order for you to make an additional $10,000, for example, in your business, or maybe $100,000 in your business, right? It doesn't really take that many people taking up your offer in order to hit that kind of revenue. So it is a law of large numbers that you go it's about volume, but at the same time, I don't want you to get this impression that you're just going like spam. It's about quality as well, how you communicate your personality. If you're a coach, you're a consultant, you're a trainer, if you are somebody who represents yourself as a personal brand, how do you then put in your personality, inject your personality into your communications to build that relationship with your prospects, right? Whether it's your prospects or it's your customers. If this email list is a list of your existing customers, then how do you then deepen that relationship to increase the lifetime value with this customer, to increase the amount of money that they actually can spend with you? Because if you are able to make them more money, naturally they can spend more money with you. And then you go into this virtuous cycle of adding value, and they adding back value to you. So think about how you can add the value back. One of the things I like to talk about in my newsletter is how do I make sure that whatever I send out is actionable for you, right? If I send out an email, I want to make sure that inside there at least has 3 things that you can do right away, right now, right? I'm not talking about like, oh, good for you 6 months down the road, that kind of things. I want you to be able to try something right now, and you try it, it's like, oh shit, this works, right? Maybe it earns you some money, or maybe it gains you some new prospects, or maybe it helps you to improve your open rates right away, right? If a tip from me helps you in some aspects, you will then feel like, hey, I'm so happy listening to you. I'm so happy opening up our emails. The amount of goodwill that you deliver instantly is humongous, because when you continue building that goodwill bank account, right? We call it the emotional bank account. If you continue building that goodwill with the person, what's going to happen is that when it comes the time for you to sell something to them, they'll be more willing to take it up with you, because the trust is really built, right? And I love this saying. I love this saying. Business builds at the speed of trust, right? Transactions happen at the speed of trust, right? So the whole idea is, if you already built that goodwill with the person, you'll be very surprised at how many people would actually become fans of yours and take up your offer when you ask for the sale, right? So yeah, so one of the things, I mean, if we want to get into small little tactics as well, that's where we'll go into deeper into the, let's say, for example, in email marketing, we'll go deeper into deliverability. We'll go into the copy itself, like what sort of copy evokes that kind of reaction from the prospective customer, right? How should you then structure your emails? How do you segment the email list that you have, so that you're actually delivering the relevant message to the correct audience, right? All these are where we get even finer, right? Where we started this entire conversation talking about all the big stuff, then now we start to go into the smaller tactics.
And I can see why you would fancy email marketing and really just like talking to your prospects or talking to interested people, as opposed to what a lot of people think growth is about, which is usually, you know, let's start a YouTube channel and let's shoot many video. Let's go out there, hire like the Gary V, the guy to keep following me around, which I think is not a bad thing, but I think people need to, after a while, differentiate between publicity and like true growth. Because it is possible to do fancy stuff, but have no outcome on.
It's true. It's true. Yeah. I mean, everybody wants to be a creator nowadays. Everybody wants to be an influencer. But nobody actually. I mean, something that I realized along the way is that a lot of influencers don't really understand the whole marketing idea. And they are actually on these kind of platforms. They are on Instagram, they are on YouTube, but they don't understand what a funnel is. And that was actually quite surprising for me, because some of these people are maybe at 100,000 followers. They're not small accounts, right? They are well-sized. They are not like macro influencers yet, but they are sizable enough, right? So as I talk to these people, I start to realize that, you know, understanding the platform is one thing, right? I wrote this yesterday on LinkedIn, right? The platform doesn't really matter as much as your strategy, right? You can tell me every single day there'll be somebody telling me Instagram is dead, email is dead, TikTok is dead, whatever is dead lah. You can say anything is dead lah. But the thing is, I still see people building multi-million-dollar companies with Instagram, with email, right? Pure email company. I came from a space where people built like 8-figure companies on email alone. And my friend I just mentioned, Dan Cole, right? He has a 7-figure business, you know, with his 1.6 million following. He has a following on X as well. I think it's like 300,000, right? But the thing is, his model is really on social media, on platforms that people are saying that is dead, right? Everyone says that Twitter is dead, right? But these people are making amazing content on these kind of platforms, and they're building a legit business out of all these kind of platforms, right? And how do they do it? They understand the aspects of marketing. They understand the psychology of marketing. And they understand the inner workings of how to elicit a response, right? From a person, right? How do you then build your brand? How do you differentiate yourself from the competition, of course, right? How do you look at that as part of your whole funnel strategy? So from Instagram, how do you then push your audience into another platform that you can keep in touch with, right? So yeah, I mean, I think what I should say is, don't get too fixated on what is the next hot platform, right? Something new comes out, right? Like for example, when Meta launched Threads, everybody was like, wow, you know, I want to help them and building there and stuff like this, right? And look what happened to it right now. So don't hop on a trend just because it's a trend. You know, just observe it and understand how it fits into your marketing, how it fits in your marketing strategy as a whole, then go into it. So if, let's say you want to go into YouTube, YouTube is a very long form, and it has a lot of longevity, right? A channel that has a lot of longevity. Like if you have a viral video, it can last for years. In fact,
very long time.
You know this. Yeah. So they generate
and Facebook and some of these other platforms. Yeah.
That's why. So you know, understanding all this, understanding how each platform behaves will do you so much better, right? And then having that game plan on how you should be keeping these customers, then that's how I always come back into the email list, the WhatsApp or SMS, right? It's because you always want to own the contact point with the customer. You always want to own that communication with the customer. And how do you actually do it? Is through email or WhatsApp or text message.
So if I were to really like crystallize the things you share, first part first is don't get new cool stuff first. Get clarity, visibility, focus, stop things that might be affecting the business. That's where you begin. Second of all, right, is increased communication. So that's when your WhatsApp comes in, your emails comes in. Because actually, sometimes when you increase the level of communication and the quality of communication, that's literally like when sales will improve. And then third one is when you start to optimize front end, ascension, offers, back ends, and this kind of thing. Very simple stuff also. Then probably down the line, then number 4, number 5 is when you start to do other fancier stuff like do social media etc. But it does seem that the first core 3 is clarity, communication, and then optimization of like front, back offers and a whole bunch of things like this. So would that be fair?
Yeah, I would say that's a much more holistic way of looking at it. And of course, if you think that all this is fluff, and all like very mindset stuff, it is actually quite true. Is after all, is business is like 80% mindset and 20% tactics. So if you want to like talk about tactics, that I share a lot of tactics as well, like things like for example, having just single word subject lines. That's something that a friend of mine told me after I shared with him, right? His open rates went through the roof. And also, having that kind of synergy between the subject line and the content and stuff like this. So when I delve deeper into the copy of the person, then that's where we start to diagnose what sort of problems they need to improve on, right? So some of the common problems that they encounter is a lot of people like to run sales copy, right? They like to send sales marketing messages, and then they neglect the part where they deliver the value, just like what I mentioned there. Giving that message that it is actionable, right? So if you're always pounding your audience with sales messages like buy this now whatsoever, and you're always saying, okay, there's a discount happening, then they're going to wait for you to have discount every time. You'll just be very turned off, and you will not be a welcome person in their life, right? It's kind of like if you're in the if you're outside, just walking on the street and somebody approaches you, here in Singapore at least, maybe in the US is different, but in Singapore, if somebody approaches you, you'll be like, oh no. I don't know,
they are taker, not a giver. So I think
so that's how it is now. But if the person comes to you and say, hey, I have something for you, this totally for you, and you walk away thinking like, hey, this person has helped me. I think that if the person has left a way to contact him back, or for him to contact you back, I think you'll be more susceptible to contacting this person again, because they don't come across as trying to pressurize you to make a purchase, because they are focused on the long-term value, right? As they try to understand what you are selling, right? Like I used to be a salesperson, right? So I like to use this method called the consultative selling method. Then I realized that when I do marketing, I also like to go from that area. So if let's say I do an email marketing campaign or Facebook campaign, right, I always start with the forums. Then I go into it, look for the problems, I cycle through what are the issues that people face, and then use that as part of my marketing material. And these really work very well.
I just really like how clean it is, and I think this hopefully has given everyone a very interesting view on what growth is. Like, I keep highlighting, because every time I tell people about growth or people start talking about growth, it's always something to do with new. But I just love how your entire approach is very fundamentals based. It's like before, and it always goes back to and growth has been given such a very interesting bad rep in recent times, because we have seen a lot of companies that look like they are growing right, but eventually all go bust. I used to like buying coffee from Flash Coffee. I don't know if you know.
Yeah.
Look like they are growing,
Okay.
right? Look like because I think most people's benchmark of growing is how many outlets you have. How often I see your stuff, and it is possible to do all those things but actually be dying inside. And I think that's like unsustainable growth, which a lot of companies are engaged in these days. They talk about, you are right, they talk about 8-figure revenue, but afterwards then their cost is way more, and then they don't live very long. But I like the way you approach it, because it's very from the inside out, from the bottom up. We look at numbers, we build accordingly. We don't do silly stuff just for publicity, and then we are able to grow in a sustainable fashion before we add in some of the other cool and fancy things also. So I think this is very, very helpful. My final question for you, Dev Ali, is if somebody listens to this and they're like, oh no, I don't do anything that Howie says. In fact, I was about to do all the things that Howie said not to do, like start a brand new channel, but I haven't even cleaned up my entire I haven't cleaned up my house yet first, and my house is a mess. Then I want to start something new. Where do you suggest they begin?
Well, I would say that firstly, you can drop me a line. But of course, like self-promotion is like what they can do is they can map out in their company what are the different functions they have within their company. Whatever functions that they can think of, just write it out first. It doesn't mean that, and again, I emphasize this, that it doesn't mean that if you don't have somebody in that role, it doesn't exist. It exists. It just means that you are actually covering for it. If nobody else is doing it, you are probably doing it. In that manner. So let's say, for example, if you don't have somebody on the paid media side of things, then you will realize that actually you are actually covering for that. And paid media means that there is a copywriting aspect. There's also a media buying aspect of it, right? And you're basically doing two persons role. Then if that's the case, then map out this entire I will say the parts of your journey, the parts of your company functions, and then start looking at where you are spending the most time with, and then ask yourself what are the areas in your company that will contribute the most in terms of value towards your company, right? And then ask yourself, are you spending your time correctly in these areas, right? And I don't want to go into the debate of whether you should be spending more time in marketing or in the product area. If you're in a product-led growth company, then yes, you have to improve on your products, of course, and then allow the referral systems to come kick in and get people to sign up with you. But the thing here is, where is the most value adding function inside your company? So break that down, and then I think having an analytics system in place is very important. So if you don't have a way to see what your customers are doing in their whole journey throughout your company, right? Google Analytics is one of the most convenient ways to do this, right? But of course, if you have certain platforms, they would have their own analytics as well. So just take a look at whether these are existing or not. Then I like to go very fundamental and just use Google Sheet. Don't go and think about like, oh, I need to build this dashboard, or I need to use whatever complex BI solution you have, business intelligence solutions, right? Don't go and think like, oh, I need Tableau, right? That's not something that you need to use until you're very, very advanced in your business stage, right? And by advanced, I'm talking about 20 million, right? Right. So if if you're at, say, the 1 to 5 million stage, right? I would say that Google Sheets is gonna already give you a very good rundown, right? Google Sheets or Excel. So Excel has a function that you can use. Has many functions that you can use. Like one of the best functions that I like to use is pivot table and charts. So just using and if you don't understand what I'm talking about, just go and Google it. Look for it in YouTube, right? Being able to, some of the metrics that I like to monitor the most is the top line revenue, right? And then your profit margins, right? If you cannot get your profit margins in place, then ask yourself, how do you get that? Can you delegate it to somebody? I had a client who told me, I don't have time to do all these. So I asked them.
Really? No time to calculate.
Yes.
Really?
No time to calculate, because I need to focus on the sales, right? So I'm like, okay, can you hire a VA then to help you to tabulate all these data? Oh no, it's very sensitive. I need them to access this, access that. I'm like, well, what are some of the sensitive areas, like for example, your bank account that you cannot delegate to? What are some of the areas that you can actually delegate to? Because there are some platforms that definitely you can allow them to access. Like for example, if you have a Stripe account, you can easily create an employee Stripe account that they cannot withdraw any money from there, no matter how hard they try. Right? If you have PayPal or whatsoever, these kind of functions allow you to then get your staff, or if you have a virtual assistant, to log in to extract all these data for you on a weekly basis. All right, you can start off as monthly, then slowly transition into a weekly basis thing, and then start having weekly meetings, weekly huddles. Like, I used to think that this is a very fundamental thing, but I was quite surprised that a lot of people don't really do that. They hear of this term huddles, but they don't really do that. So have weekly meetings based on this data. Your huddles, your weekly huddles should be based on the data that you have collected, your sales data, your profit margins data, your traffic data, where your traffic is coming from. If you have a breakdown of the traffic sources that you have, let's say your traffic is coming from YouTube, right? If you're a personal brand that creates content on YouTube, all right, you should have that data, how much traffic is coming in from there, what are the conversion rates that's coming in from there. If you have another channel that you cross post to, let's say Instagram, right? Do you have that data coming in from you? Then how much conversions are actually happening here? Because what's going to happen is then you will realize that, hey, you know, I have a lot of traffic coming in from on YouTube, but on Instagram, right, they're not just not converting. Then the next question you might ask yourself is it worth continuing with Instagram, or is there something wrong that you're doing right on YouTube but not doing right on Instagram? That's not converting you to that kind of sales. So by looking at these kind of data, can you then compare and contrast each of your traffic channels, right? You might think that, okay, YouTube and Instagram, both videos, if I both upload videos, it should work technically the same, right? Not true, because because people behave very differently. So the profile of the people is very different. The behavior that they use, if I use YouTube, I will use YouTube in a more relaxed setting because I'm more prone to consuming longer videos. If I'm using Instagram, I'm what the official term is leaning forward and sitting back. So if I'm leaning forward, I might be in the train, I might be at the back of a taxi or a Grab, and I'm just using my phone and scrolling through. So that will be Instagram. If it's YouTube, then I'll be sitting back, relaxed and watching it, prepared to spend maybe 10-20 minutes on the video. So the behavior is so different. And when you look at the analytics, it will come very, very apparent to you. So let's say, for example, you realize that you have less traffic coming from YouTube, but a lot more converting, then you have a higher quality traffic there. And then Instagram, you may realize that, hey, people may not be clicking the link that you wanted. So maybe either your link is not placed in the correct area, your CTA is not right, or maybe the content is just not synergistic with your landing page in the first place. So looking at that will allow you to then understand the different traffic channels if you're looking at the marketing aspect of things. And I would say that, that's how you should go about cleaning house, so to speak.
Wow. I think this is very, very comprehensive. I suddenly, as you describe all of these, I really see a step-by-step system you use, and it's very inside out to help people with their growth in a very sustainable manner. Might not be what they want to hear. They might, like I say, you might want to hire you because they want to try 5 brand new things they see a competitor or more famous person do. But I think the ways that you go about, I think that's why you mentioned whether they are ready or not. Some people are never ready because they want to do sexy, cool shit versus do what works. I think that's a huge difference also. And some people, I think they probably have enough of doing shit that's sexy but doesn't work. And they're like, all right, cool. Can we do it the more systematic, fundamental, data-driven way? So I guess that's why you say they are either ready or not.
And the thing is, if you continue approaching things the way of, okay, what's the next new thing that I need to explore? You might start to feel like you don't really love your business anymore, because each time you have each time you explore something that sounds sexy but disappoints you, guess what? You're gonna eat away that motivation that you have as an entrepreneur, right? And with that, right, it's gonna eat away the energy that you have to put inside your business. But if you turn it around and look at how does everything fit into you, you're gonna run a more fulfilling business, because you're gonna understand where everything is coming from, and at the same time, you're gonna reduce a lot of burnout. Because and this is a very true story, right? I had a client who literally couldn't take holiday when I first started working with him, right? 3 weeks later, he told me, Howie, I'm gonna take like 2 weeks off and just go on holiday. Then I'm like, hey, what about your business? He said, no problem, my employees can take care of it. So the thing is, the benefit is very, very clear. As long as you have the roles of your employees worked out properly, and you have your processes in place, right? It's very easy for your company to run by itself.
Yeah.
And you will have that kind of time to really take care of yourself, to really recharge if you really need to. You will suffer so much less burnout, and you will make so much better decisions that way. Again, like you say, it's not gonna sound like sexy rocket science or whatsoever, but this is the thing that really works. And the reason why I don't like to market myself as, I tried like saying, oh, AI this, whatever, that kind of things, but I feel like if the person is just at a stage where they are looking at what is the next sexy thing, then they are not ready to look at this, look at a business in this way. But perhaps when they start experiencing, when they start coming to a point where they feel like, hey, I've tried everything and I'm fed up already, and I find that, it's time for me to look back. Then they'll come back to me and say, hey, whatever you say is correct. Let's go and try it. Happened to me.
I think so.
Yeah.
Your target audience are people that chase the sexy. It's kind of funny also. I think naturally people chase the sexy, but then they realize, hey, something is sexy, don't always mean it works. Then after a while, after the sexy fails over and over, then they're like, hey, you know what? Can we do it the proper way? like I think that's when they're really Howie, I think it's been a fascinating, very, very very interesting conversation, because I think it's what people need. Might not be what they want, like we have established several times, but I think it's definitely the inside out sustainable method of growth. So I think I really appreciate you for doing this. If people want to reach out to you, which is the platform you are using?
Well, I'm most active right now on LinkedIn. I also have an account on X. Right, on both platforms, you will see the same profile picture. I'm in a suit, right? Not because I like to wear suits. I actually like t-shirts, but that's because people like formality. I'm on LinkedIn, so my handle is the Howie Tan. If you go on X, it's also the Howie Tan. You can look for me there. I'm also in Instagram as well. So LinkedIn, X, Instagram, right?
Yeah, fantastic. And people want to reach out, they can reach out over there. So thanks a lot, Howie. I really appreciate this conversation. For everyone else listening, I hope this has been very enlightening for myself also. Because I just really resonate with Howie's very, very systematic way of growth, and I hope you got a lot of value out of this. Take care, guys.